Human beings are just the same. It's a good lesson I have learned. The needs are the same. Except that I think people have created for themselves blockades in the pipe. The blockades are self-made. And I've been praying for God to remove those blockades. You find people say, well, we are comfortable, and so we don't find all of this. And I'm going to think that God designed comfort to be a blockade. It's part of God's blessings. Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, children of God, they always are leading in terms of showing the light of comfort. It's not intended to be a blockade. In fact, that you are comfortable should be the more reason why you should display the glory of God and declare His goodness. The more comfortable, the more the spread of the good news. So I think that is a little bit of the thing that I'm seeing, that the church should not be blaming God for making you comfortable. No. It's God's blessings. Use it for His glory. The more reason why you should spread the good news. Because the resources are there. The comfort is there. The second thing we've observed is that we have made church here and less a movement that God intends it to be. Church has become something we do, we like, people have asked me, do you have a cathedral? I say, yes, we have a cathedral. Cathedral. And they tell me what the cathedral is like. Cathedral for me is my bedroom even. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, all the structures we have, heaven and earth, will pass away. They will pass away. So I wouldn't bother whether you sang or you chanted or you did the incense or you jumped up or you were crawling on the floor. All of those make us feel good. But that is not the issue. We're a movement. The gospel is a movement. You may like a church, you may like the vicar. For all you care, that is useful to you. But God designed that both you, vicar, and the church should be a movement for the gospel. But I think that Western minds will tend to say, I don't like this church anymore. The vicar preaches too long. I'm going to change church. I will not come to church. As though you are doing God a favor. You're not doing God a favor. God is the one who has, if you are in Somalia, what would you say? Did you write an application to be in Australia? No, you didn't. If God had wanted, standing before you, I would have been a kangaroo. I didn't have a choice. So when God has put you in a place, it demands gratitude and humility to understand that it is by grace you are where you are. And even if the church is not doing what you like, but when you know Jesus, that will not bother you. In any case, no church is there to do whatever you like. You won't find one like that easily. Because if I was your pastor too, you'll find a reason not to like me. So, there's just, we're human beings. But the gospel just changes the whole thing. But the third thing we also have found is that I think there is a massive neglect of evangelism to children. It's massive here that we've seen. And so children are left to wander away, hoping that somehow children will believe. Children will not believe. That is why Deuteronomy says, talk to them while they are children. Tell them the Lord your God is the only Lord. He is the one. Thou shalt love Him with all your heart. Teach the child early. Islam is not doing what Christians are doing. A 6-year-old Muslim kid knows that in a few years' time, he's going to take over a city. But a 6-year-old child from a supposedly Christian home is hoping that he will soon be 18 and start using drugs. Can you see the difference? They teach their children. But the West don't teach their children. And yet the Bible lays all the emphasis on believers teaching their children. I cannot thank God enough for my wife. She believes in that. And children, we have found, we've learned to, through the hard way, children are children. When they are year 1 to 5, if you teach them correctly, they believe in Jesus. Oh, they love Jesus. They want everything about Jesus. But between 5 to 12, there's another hard work between that ages. Then between 12 and 21 is another. Once the 5 to 12 is done well, and 1 to 5 is done well, 5 to 12 is done well, between 12 and 18, they make the decision themselves. We found that with all our 6 kids. They usually from university, you get phone call, Daddy, I don't understand this faith. I don't know. Is it because I'm a pastor's kid? I said, sweetheart, you're now a young adult. If you went to hell, I will cry a little bit. I will be happy. The choice is yours. And then a little bit in the university, you get phone call, Daddy, I thank God. I have now experienced it. I know. And that has passed on for all our 5, remaining the last one. And we're doing the same thing with our other children. In fact, my nephew came to know Jesus Christ in our house with my wife. He's an archdeacon. My younger brother, who's going to be a bishop in September in the Anglican church, we consecrated, he came to know the Lord through Gloria when he was in secondary school. So children, we have to invest the faith deposit and pass on to them. Listen, God in his infinite wisdom, okay, brought Helen and Alan our ways. Both of them knew my grandmother. They were friends of my grandmother. Okay? And then when I became bishop, it was my joy to ordain them. Angels. My grandma was the person instrumental to leading me to the Lord. I rejected it for all I wanted to. But at 18, when somebody talked to me, I remember, I ran back to her. I said, Grandma, you were right. See, faith is not an accident. It's grown, it's developed, it's nurtured, and it's built. So that will be what I hope that our gathering and Christians will begin to redress and not take on all the secular things we see on television. Oh, allow the child to make up his mind. Oh, and so when you don't do it, you feel any less Australian. No, you are not any less Australian for doing what is right before God. If you choose to please Australia, Australia will not save you. Only Jesus can. So why not be an Australian Christian so that you might be the instrument of saving Australia rather than hoping that Australia will save you and your children? She cannot. She cannot. The report we got in New Zealand is that young people are committing suicide. Why? Yes, God.
I want to say, anytime I have had opportunity to speak to Christians, what I have noticed is it will seem that Christians, this is my own thinking, I may be wrong, but it will seem that our brothers and sisters are very comfortable to themselves and they don't seem to be seeing what is happening in their society. The influx of other people that come in with their beliefs and their beliefs are so strong. They carry them everywhere they go and they are not ashamed of it. It will seem that what I have seen generally from New Zealand and from here, and I just want to make a wake-up call. Maybe Ben will help me to explain it better. But just to make a wake-up call, just for us to be aware. We're not saying, we're not coming with, something, for you to feel, to begin to feel afraid or look at other people with fear or with resentment. But that we need to be very, very careful as Christians. We need to hold to our faith seriously, share it without shame to our children. They may not like us, but later they will say, thank God for mommy. Whether you were there or not, they will remember. They will say, my mother loved the Lord, but for my mother prayed for me, or my father loved the Lord, and all of that. And then when you see other people coming with their beliefs and all of that, at least you have something to protect your heart. I speak as an African. Your heart has already been covered. Your heart means your belief. You know what you believe, and you can stand for it anytime. People have asked, how is it that in spite of all the sufferings, in spite of all the persecutions and so on, you can still stand and testify for your faith? Yes, that was what happened to the apostles of old. We heard of how they were giving us food to wild animals. Some of them were burnt and so on. Some of them never enjoyed what we enjoyed, and yet they stood because they knew they had accepted it in their hearts and they believed. They stood for it to the fact that they could even die for it. They were not afraid. So I just hope that Christians will encourage each other and stand. I see this in the West. It's like you don't want to offend anybody. It's good. It's good not to offend anybody. But gradually you're giving away, gradually you're moving, and very soon I have heard in the course of my, going out to places with Ben, I've heard people in the West say, but we are very few. We are very few. And how did you become very few? It's because you don't want to talk about it. And sometimes it's like you don't want to let yourselves, free in the spirit. We're not saying you should jump like us, or, your culture is different. But for goodness sake, if the Lord has made you happy, be happy. Do you know something? I never knew that white people can jump, and until when I saw this football, and when people go to watch rugby, do you see how they jump? You would have heard their noise from there in the stadium. When you are there, you will hear the loud noise. I say, oh, so white people shout. I never knew they did. If you are excited for the Lord, let it show. If God has done something for you, don't be ashamed, don't be afraid. It doesn't matter when people are looking at you. Somebody say, I don't care if you are here for anybody, I'm here for the Lord, I will shout for him. I mean, that is how it should be. But we are not trying to point fingers at you, but you ask. And we are simply telling you with the Christian love, and we hope that you will not be discouraged in any way, as if we're telling you things. Honestly, we have seen love. There is great love. But if you are not careful with your love can be taken advantage of. So it's better that you stand for your faith, and even if you have to love, you know that you are loving for the sake of Christ, and you will not be ashamed of what you believe. So you make your stand. Thank you very much.